welcome back to Should Aizawa Podfix. Today we're going to be reading He's Talking About Books and Canyons. He's clearly traumatized. And this is a part of Their Gamer Nerds, Your Honor series by C3130527 on Hinged Grapefruit. We're going to be reading part 1 out of 4. I might do part 2 in this video. That's undetermined. I apologize for background noise if I pause at all. Please try and continue to enjoy your experience, and let's get started. He's talking about books and canyons. He's clearly traumatized. C3130527 on Hinged Grapefruit. Summary. What if Shigaraki took Midoriya back to the hideout on the day he met him at the mall? What if they were both too deep into the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom? Ochako was freaking out. One moment they had all been having a great time at the mall, shopping for their upcoming camping trip, and the next they were scouring the endless mall. Because of course, Deku had to wander off. Of course he did. At first, they were all joking about it. Some made comments about a future investment in a backpack leash. Some saying he had definitely gotten lost chasing someone around with his notebook. Ochako wasn't so sure, though. It just didn't seem like him to disappear without a trace. She brought it up, but they all brushed her off. It wasn't until 30 minutes had passed, no one finding him or being able to reach him, that the others came around. Those who were there met back up in the food court and called Mr. Aizawa. He assured them that they'd be there shortly, and when he showed up, he brought a good chunk of the police force. Ochaka and the others gave their statements. They waited around while some civilians gave testimonies, as well. Mr. Aizawa took them all back to the school soon after, a necessary precaution in case the kidnappers wanted to try and take another student. As they sat in the classrooms, quietly talking amongst themselves, she couldn't help but worry about what Deku was being put through. "You have got to be fucking kidding me," Izuku said, stuck to a chair as he struggled to untie his wrists. "Do you really believe that the book shouldn't be considered canon?" "Yes!" Shigaraki shouted back, pacing in front of the bar. "I can't accept novellas. Those I think can be justified. But those damn short stories make no sense. They have no rhyme or reason. Anyone who thinks they do is an absolute moron." "You're not wrong about that. The Fazbear Frights books are utterly ridiculous. But you have to admit that there are many similarities and connections." "Okay, sure, fine. There are some similarities, but not nearly enough for the entire series to be considered canonical." "Great, yes, okay. Now that we've settled that, what are your thoughts about the bite of 87? Dabby didn't know what the hell was going on. He knew that they were kidnapping the green-haired brat from UA, that he understood, that he could get behind. But he thought they were kidnapping him to A, force him to join them, or B, to kill him. He would never have supported it if he knew that it would result in all of that." He had his ear pressed up to the door. They all had been forced out of the bar area when Kirigiri teleported the kid in, only catching less than half of what they were saying. Stuff about lore and books and animatronics and a William. He didn't know who the hell William was, but based on how they were talking about him, he didn't think he wanted to. "What do you mean you've never played Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Simulator?" he heard Shigaraki shriek. He was sure everyone on the block heard Shigaraki shriek. He couldn't hear what Broccoli had said, but seconds later Shigaraki was bursting through the door, disintegrating the doorknob as he went, muttering something about needing his ancient-ass laptop with the good fucking games. That was when Dabby decided that eavesdropping was not worth his time. "Shigaraki, I appreciate the thought, but I can't really play with my hands tied behind my back, he shouted, lightly thrashing in the chair. If I untie you, will you run away? No, I want to play Pizza Simulator. Good, Shigaraki muttered, dusting the rope. Izuku flexed his hands and took the computer from his captor. Now, while you're playing that, I'm going to talk your ears off about why the Mega Pizzaplex has to be built upon the FNAF 1 location. Okay, but if I'm killed by Lefty because your annoying voice is taking up too much of my headspace, I will stuff you into sexy chica. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I would. Now shut up. I'd like to hear the intro. They had been at the school for over 3 hours, and there were still no leads. She knew that abduction cases usually took a while, but she just wanted her friend back. She thought it was stupid that they couldn't find him yet. It was pretty obvious that the League of Villains had taken him. They were obsessed with their class. She had taken multiple laps around the inside of the school, dragging someone along with her every time, as they had to abide by the buddy system until further notice. She had even gone to Nezu's office willing and ready to demand that he had to do something about it before she started floating the furniture out through the windows. She was, however, easily deterred when Nezu popped up behind her in the middle of the hallway. He asked her how she was doing and offered to give her a full report of what they had found, if she wanted to have a few cups of tea with him in his office. She had originally wanted to agree until Sue declined for her and pulled her back into the direction of the classroom. I would have let you do it if I hadn't heard numerous horror stories from Midoriya, Sue whispered once they were sitting back down in their seats. What do you mean, horror stories? A principal and his tea can't be that bad. Just then, Ochaka felt like she was being watched. She whipped her head around to find Aizawa glaring at her with his quirk. He just slowly shook his head and then let his quirk go. So maybe he is that bad, she said, turning back around to face Sue. But nonetheless, I wish people would tell us what was going on. Are you serious? Of course it could be based on real events, Izuku said. He had migrated to the bar after finishing a playthrough of FNAF 6. Chuck E. Cheese, Aurora, Colorado, 1993. Hidden in the bathroom is ex-employee Nathan Dunlap. When he emerges, this has nothing to do with the lore, though, which is what we were talking about. Yeah, well, Nathan Dunlap's death sentence was pushed back, and Afton won't fucking die. It has to do with the goddamn lore, you blue-haired bitch. You are grasping at straws, Freckles. Even if the Chuck E. Cheese shooting is the inspiration for the game, the first game and event itself took place almost 20 years apart, there is no way he could have predicted the banning of the death penalty 6 years later. Yes, the temporary reprieve was signed before the game came out. It put his death on hold. And maybe, if he planned on making the series as long as he did from the very beginning, he planned on Afton not dying in FNAF 3. But by then, the death penalty hadn't been banned yet. He didn't know what was going to happen. He could have been improvising as he went along, or going with the fans wanted. Maybe that could make sense. But I didn't say all of that so we could debate on it. I said it so we could pivot topics and talk about the fucking lore again. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the lore then. Tell me. Oh, great one. What shall we discuss? He asked mockingly, getting a light slap to the shoulder. Now Masa was losing his mind. He knew who had kidnapped Izuku Midoriya Izuku. But there was nothing else. There was no one else that could be. Well, there could be, but it didn't make sense. He was taken from a shopping mall. It was a kidnapping that could either be planned or be based on opportunity. But seeing as he had done well at the sports festival, most people knew who he was. They knew that he was powerful and that he was capable of and what he was capable of. So unless this person had a powerful quirk, no one else but the League of Villains could have taken him. They had someone with a teleportation quirk, too. That was a pretty good way to kidnap someone. And Shigaraki Tomura had a pretty dangerous quirk. One that might cause enough fear to follow him wherever he went if he threatened to use it against you. We can dance, we can sing, Izuku and Shigaraki aggressively sang the song. Safety Dance by Men Without Hats was playing in the background. They had queued up Sister Location, wanted to see how fast they could play through the game if they were working together. As they sat on the couch in the hideout, the game's introduction played. There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those. She could dance. She can sing. That's when Zuku started humming the song. President Mike had played it for them in class the other week, and it must have stuck. It caught Shigaraki's attention, and before they could fully pay attention to the game, they needed to listen to it. So they left the intro finish and then opened up a web browser, typing the song name into it. Even if neither totally understood the song, they did both understand that both Baby and the subject of the song could dance and sing. And they were both blissfully unaware of Dabby's phone sticking through the crack in the door, filming their celebration, dance party, whatever it was. It would be living in the gallery of his phone for a long while. They were finally all told to go home. It had gotten rather late and no one wanted to keep them for much longer. They were told they were welcome to stay in the school overnight if it made them feel safer, but after no further attack, the staff and police department thought it was safe for the students all return home for the night. Ochaka had walked off campus with her friends. They were all whispering quietly, the more worried about Deku than before. She had thought that maybe they would have found him by now. From all the true crime shows she watched, she knew that the first 24 hours were the most important, in that survival rate typically declined after that. She didn't think the league would kill Deku, but she really didn't want to take that risk. She, of course, trusted in the legal system. She knew that the police and her heroes would find him, but she would prefer it sooner rather than later. She couldn't begin to imagine the torture he was being subjected to. No, 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 Monty Golf is superior, Izuku shouted, pushing Shigaraki off the couch. Anyone who picks Monty Golf over Phaser Blast is a nerd and a total disgrace to society. You're a whore and a bastard, and I hope you choke on exotic butters. Is that a threat? Yes. Then Izuku took off running, jumping over the bar counter, trying to dodge Shigaraki's ungloved hands. A few hours and several more games later, Izuku was dropped back off at his house. He thanked Kirigiri for the lift and told him to give his best to Shigaraki. The first thing he saw was his mother crying on the couch, sitting next to All Might in his tiny form, trying to comfort her. Izuku? She cried when she noticed him. Yeah, Mom, why are you crying? And what's, Mr. Yagi doing here? Izuku, what did they do to you? Who? He turned to All Might, shooting him a look that screamed, what the fuck is she talking about? Young Midoriya, you were kidnapped. Don't you remember? Oh yeah, he said, shaking his head. I guess I was kidnapped. 10 out of 10 would do again, he commented, walking out over to the fridge to grab himself a snack. He and Shigaraki had been too preoccupied to remember to eat. His comment, though funny to him, sent his mom into another fit of tears. Midoriya, what happened? I learned that Shigaraki, the dumb slut he is, doesn't think that the books are canon, amongst other things. All Might didn't say anything in response, and his mother just kept on crying. Instead, Izuku watched as his mentor punched a number into his phone, calling someone. He was only able to hear one side of the conversation. Izuku had thought he had called the police to let them know that he had shown back up, but apparently he had called Hound Dog instead. He's clearly traumatized. You'll need to see him immediately. A pause. He's talking about books and Kenyans. He is also called the face of the League of Villains, and I quote, a dumb slut. I think that's plenty of reason for him to meet with you, if being kidnapped wasn't reason enough as it was. All Might, I'm fine. I don't need therapy, he said after All Might had hung up. Izuku, you're speaking in tongues, his mother said. Izuku, you're speaking in tongues, his mother said. Please, for me, go see the school's therapist, Izuku sighed. Fine, I'll go see Hound Dog, he said, and gave his mother a hug. Maybe I can get him into Five Nights at Freddy's, he muttered to himself as he walked into his room, cracking open his computer so he could add Shigaraki on Steam. They had many more things to discuss, like Gregory and whether he was a robot or not. Alright, everyone, that is the end of part 1. I'll get back to you on part 2, which will probably be posted within an hour or so. But it was. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. That was Should I Zoa Podfix. Come again.